Hey, what's up, guys? So today, gonna answer a question from a viewer, and he was asking basically, how do you improve your top speed? And I first want to respond to that by saying maybe that's not the question that you should be asking. I mean, maybe it is, but it might not be because a lot of athletes I see out there, they think that their top speed is lacking when there's actually some issues during acceleration which lead up to top end speed and prevent you from reaching your potential top end speed. Or sometimes people confuse the speed endurance portion and some lacking of qualities regarding speed endurance for top end speed. So, you really have to analyze things. You really got to sit down and take a look at yourself, not just on film, but also looking at, okay, am I doing quality acceleration work? Am I doing quality top speed work and speed endurance work? You have to factor in so many things. And it's not only just doing that, an amount of that work. You could have, enough volume of top speed work. You could have enough volume of acceleration work or whatever. But if that work isn't quality, and if it's not repeatable, in competition, then you're not doing yourself any good. So the answer I think to that question is, of course, it depends. Um, do you have a top speed issue or not? You may not. But for the sake of conversation, let's say that an athlete needs to improve their top speed. Again, it's going to depend on the athlete, right? What do they look like at top speed? Are they tensing up at the shoulders? Are they just tensing up in terms of just their range of motion is tighter and smaller? Can you see it in their face even when they're running? Sometimes you see that. And so that's one of the things that you should really be looking for during the top end speed portion. The other thing I would say aside from relaxation is, you know, are there appropriate positions being achieved? If an athlete's not getting their hips up completely, if they're not completely accelerating, then of course you're not going to reach your top speed. So if I'm just accelerating really rapidly, but then I level off, I can't accelerate anymore, then I'm going to limit the top speed potential that I'm going to reach. Um, and, if I'm able to accelerate though and continue accelerating, I'm going to reach a higher top end speed. So, again, you have to ask yourself these things and take a good hard look at yourself. But I would say often a lot of athletes, more often than not, yeah, they think their top end speed is lacking, and it's really maybe some issues with acceleration, more specifically the latter portion of acceleration. But again, that's preceded by early acceleration. So, for example, someone could really chop up their steps and get out really quick to 10 meters. You can really sacrifice a lot of things and do that. You can change your technique and get a very quick start to 10 meters, but it could prevent you from getting up to, higher top speeds. It could prevent you from accelerating, for a longer period of time. So that's, an important thing to consider because, the best athletes or the fastest sprinters, they accelerate 50 or 60 meters on the men's side, and women about 40, maybe 50. So, you got to ask yourself these questions. Am I doing quality acceleration work? What does that look like? What are things at top speed? So, I mean, you got to relax. You got to keep your shoulders dropped. You should have relaxation throughout your face during the top end speed portion of the race. I think a problem is a lot of athletes get used to kind of muscling things during acceleration. And you can get away with it. You can get away with a lot of things during acceleration because there's different ways that you can accelerate. So, I think a lot of athletes, they kind of force things, they fight and they muscle or they chop or do different things during that early part of acceleration. And then, it catches up to them pretty quickly. And they end up not being able to reach their top end speed because of those things. And again, they're muscling things, so they're not relaxed. And so they carry out that lack of relaxation into late acceleration, and then it just shuts things down and prevents you from continuing to accelerate, right? So you have to make sure that the athlete is relaxed, because when you're at top speed, and you can have a very detailed scientific technical discussion about it, but the bottom line is that at top speed, your ground contact times are so short because you're already contracting so fast. You need to learn to shut off those muscles just as fast, because you can't get into the next contraction, the next stride, unless you shut off the muscles that aren't supposed to be working, right? It's turning on and turning off. It has to happen very quickly. If you're not able to turn off or relax, then you're going to be having longer ground contact times. And in turn, that's going to obviously make you slower. So it's very important to make sure that you're not tightening up. Because, the other thing is, okay, a lot of programs out there, a lot of teams and a lot of coaches talk about how much they work on their top end speed, but it's not what you work on, it's really how are you working on it. Is it quality? You could do volumes and volumes and volumes of top speed work, but if it's not quality, if it's not appropriate, like if it's not going to help you progress, if you're not going to be able to connect your acceleration and your top speed together, then you're not doing yourself justice. So you have to be able to consistently repeat that in training and into a race. So, I see a lot of programs where they say we do a lot of top speed work. And usually when they say that, they mean they do a lot of like 50, 60 meter sprints from the blocks, maybe. And a lot of times, again, what they're doing with their athletes is they're reinforcing these bad habits. The athletes are used to muscling maybe out of the blocks or chop or whatever. And then again, that carries over into the late acceleration and they never reach their like true top end speed, you might say. So part of that is because they're starting them at an all-out sprint from the blocks. And so, you have to, I think, try to isolate these components so that the athlete can learn to execute it properly. So one of the things you might do is flying sprints. If you're not familiar with that term, a flying sprint is basically starting off at a sub-maximal speed, or you're starting off easy. You're not going all out full speed from the get-go. You start off nice and gradually, and you gradually build and build and build and go faster, 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 faster. So that's essentially, what a fly is. And it does make things a lot easier, I think, for the athlete, because you're focusing on one component of the race. And you're focusing primarily on relaxation. You're focusing primarily on that upright posture. So it allows the athlete to be less distracted, or let's say just have less on their plate, and they can really just focus on, just one or two key things. So that's really a good learning tool. And it's easier to relax, if you're not muscling at the beginning because you're going easy, you're starting off nice and smooth and gradual, then it's going to be easier to stay relaxed throughout the rest of the repetition, right? So, as far as executing it, when I'm looking at these things, I want to see an athlete, again, be very gradual and progressive about it. You want to make sure that there's a focus on the arm action. Are the arms going down? Is it a dynamic action? Or are they forcing things too much? That's not what you don't want to see is forcing things, whether it's, arm action really big and long. For the most part, most athletes are going to have a shortened arm carriage at top end speed. Why? Because you have shorter ground contacts. If I have shorter time on the ground, I need to get into the next stride quicker. And so I have a shorter arm carriage because of that. So, typically during early acceleration, you have a lot more longer, more open angles at the arms, whereas at top speed, it's sort of tightened up a little bit because you need to pop off the ground, pop off the ground, pop off the ground. So, you just, some of the basic fundamentals, posture, not leaning and crashing. You see athletes a lot of times they lean forward and they're kind of crashing into the ground. Those are things that you don't want to see either. So, aside from that, I would just say that I don't see a lot of programs implement really quality controlled flying sprints in their programs. For me, I like to work on flies pretty early in the year because you need to be able to, I think, have that foundation laid down to where, okay, they know what it feels like to be relaxed. They know what it feels like to be running in the upright position. And so if you're able to isolate that and feel that out, it'll be easier to get back to that feeling when you start coming out of the blocks. And once you start doing block starts that are longer, once they're at 40, 50, maybe 60 and beyond. And so I just see a lot of disconnect, though, in a lot of programs. So you got to be able to isolate those components, then you got to be able to integrate them so that the athlete can execute that upon command. Now, aside from that, other things can obviously improve your top end speed. I mean, certainly improving just how fast you can accelerate in an efficient manner is going to help you reach a higher top end speed. If you're inefficient at it, when you could be gaining more speed at the beginning, then that could be holding you back. Also, things like maybe a lack of strength that can prevent you from having a higher top end speed. A lack of being able to understand what it's like to apply force very quickly and rapidly. So let's say plyometrics. Doing plyometric exercises could help top speed. I don't think it's always necessary, but it's possible that someone could benefit from that. So really, aside from doing quality top end speed work, there's numerous things that athletes can do to assist and help themselves run better at top end speed. But it's really just everything else that you would normally include in your training, right? You got to have acceleration work. You've got to have strength work in some shape or form. The assistance work that you do, the plyometric work, all this other stuff, it does help you to, execute the top speed phase of the race well. So, that's pretty much my thoughts on that at the moment. So, yeah, I mean, it's an important thing to think about. A lot of people say they're doing top end speed work and they're really not. They're holding themselves back. So, yeah, continue to think about these things and take a deeper dive and closer look at yourself. So, yeah, until next time, guys, I'll see you. Take care.